Hello, good morning, or good evening, or good afternoon, wherever you are, and thank you for coming back to my channel. So, this video will be the last video for the integration test, and the way that this is we take a look at the make call test for the integration test, but as the test goes higher, like for example, make call, invoicing and payment, it's still possible to do it under integration, but my suggestion is to do it on a higher level, like a UI, because that UI, what we call end-to-end test, would actually cover everything from backend to the, because you are making calls to the backend as you work with the front end. So it will make call, and it will provide a better data for your test than the lower integration test. The data becomes harder to construct in the lower level than it is on a higher level. So basically, yeah, so I'm just gonna go over this, and we already know how it is to make a call receiver. To create a call receiver, we create a user, and that user will create a call receiver. We use the user details to create a call receiver. So we use the username to create a call receiver. We extract it, as we already explained before. If you want to understand where everything else started and where it come from, my suggestion is go over the last 3-4 videos, which goes on about serialization and deserialization of how I construct my data from the Java. Anyway, so here is a little bit different. So we are creating the call receiver, right? That would in turn create the user first, then the call receiver. Then we check the status, that is it okay. It's always best to check it. All right, and then we take the call receiver response body. I think some of the videos I went over, I was saying body, but it's actually the response body. Okay, so this is a correction. And then we store into the string variable, right? And then we extract various stuff from it. Like for example, to make a call, we need the telephone number of the call receiver. We also need the username of the user, but that we extracted from the call receiver as well. So we see how we got the response there. We are using it to extract the telephone number, and we are also using it to extract the user, which we showed the example before. But let's take a look at this one. This one is quite simply going through the nodes. So we already know that we use ObjectMapper, right? And then to take the response body, which we are passing from here, right? We take the response body and then we pass it into a JSON node, because that's how we extract the body as the root node. Okay, the root node contains the full data or response, and then we are storing into a JSON node. All right, and then we deserialize it going down. Okay, so we want to make sure that we extract the data, and data is the first node from the root, right? And then the rest of it follows. Okay, so to extract this particular one, which I think is the telephone number, we are extracting it and making sure that we go through data, and then we check, we store data into data node as a JSON node reference, and then we check that it is not a null. Okay, once we check that it is not a null, then we use the field name, and the field name in here is telephone, and then we check that field name and we put it into another variable, and then we check that that is a null. When we check that that is a null, we return it as a test to the user, and then we have to say a whole lot of stuff just in case something is gone wrong and stuff like that. Okay, all right, so let's go back to where it was. Right, so that's how we are, what we are doing to construct the that's what we are doing to construct the telephone number. And then in the username is a little bit different in the when we make when we create a call receiver and we want the username in the call receiver, and that construct and which I've showed you in the previous video. Let me see if I can show you back again. To the postman. This is where we can see what I'm trying to do here. So when we create a call receiver, this is the values that we are passing on, and one of them, most important one, is the user who's making the call and their relationship to it. So it's mainly these two that we are interested in. So if we send it, which is not sent because I ain't got this one on, so let me just get this one on. What it is, I've proceed my postman so that I can what is it, I could you know, like I could debug my work just in case it's not right. So that's why it says, hey, where is it now? Okay, so let me just send it again, and the backend is running, so hopefully if we send this should work. And then we can take a look at the response body. All right, 200 something is not quite right. Let me just sort this out. The reason why that happened is because I did not start the backend. I thought I did, but I didn't. So here we go again. Let me just run this again. Okay, so if we look at the response and we want the telephone number, we also want the username of the user. So the telephone number is right directly under data. So we go through data, and then we go through data node. So we get the root of the whole thing, yeah, and then from the root we get the node for data, and then we get the node for telephone. So that's how we get to this. So you go straight from data to telephone, but to get to the username is a different story, right? We get the root of the whole JSON, and then we get we go through to the data. Okay, then we have to come through to the user, because user is a relationship to call receiver, right? And then through the user, then we get the username. Okay, so if we go back to where we were, yeah, okay, the server is running, but it's okay. If we run the test, we'll be fine. So this is why extracting this one is different, and the reason why I've left the method as extract data extract, which I think I'll come up with a better way of, is because I want to reuse this method just in case I want to retrieve any of this, right, any of this node under user in the near future, then I can just reuse that method. That's why I left it like that, but I need to give it a proper meaningful method name, which I haven't come out. So you can see here, as I said, is different from the other one that I showed. This one is you know, we've got the ObjectMapper to make sure we get the root node, yeah, and we use the object number and then store it into a root node of a JSON node type. Then from the root node we extract data, as I mentioned already, I showed you before, and then from data we want user. Okay, and then after we check that it is not, you know, we check data is not enough before we go for user, then we check the user is not enough before we go to the next node, which is the field name we are passing, which is the username. Okay, and then once we check that username is okay, then we return it to the user, and then these are just double checking if anything goes wrong. Okay, just error messages if anything goes wrong, right? So that is the call receiver, and that is not call receiver, that is how we make the call. But the data here is unpredictable because the way that I'm passing the data is not really ideal. So for example, we've extracted a telephone And then at the next point, the telephone username, and the next point is we want to pass on to the make call date method. The make call method takes the telephone number and the user, and then it construct a start and a start time and end time. And this is what I mean about I haven't quite come up with an easy way to make sure that when we create a call, that the end call is actually higher than the start call. Because if you start a call at 10, for example, it will finish after 10, right? Not finish before 10. So that's what I mean here, that it's not very I don't have much control over what it is, unless I add it up, like I say, start time plus something is equals to end time is equals to start time plus something, right? Maybe plus 10 seconds or whatever, but I won't go into that detail right here. I will do it on a higher level test. So, and then once we've done all that, we want to construct into a JSON object. Okay, so we want to take everything: the telephone number, the username, the start time, and the start date, and then the discount as well, which I'm just faking it here. And we are making a call to this method from the call or the call generator method. And then we are constructing everything just the same way that we would construct similar when we want to make a call in the, you see how we've got everything here. We got a start and discount, username and telephone, start and discount, username and telephone, and it's similar. And then we return it, right? And then we return this method as well. Once we return this method, and that's how we make the call, simply like that, right? And that is our call. So we construct the body, we install it into a JSON object, right? And variable, and then we get our header as usual, and then we pass that JSON object as a string to we store it into a request entity string variable right here, plus the header, right? Once we've done all that stuff, we head back into the REST template to make the call. So we pass on the endpoint to make the call, and then we pass on the method that we use to make the call, and then we pass on the entity that we've already constructed here and store into that variable, and then we say that it's a string type of class, right? And this works fine. All right, then I'm going to end the video here, because anymore and it will prolong the video. And see you in the next run. Thank you for coming back to my channel.